Hello and welcome. I'm Rashan Gidwani and you're watching the newsroom. Let's take a look at the top headlines for this hour. Israeli airstrikes in Gaza have killed 3 people, including a young girl. Medical officials confirmed the casualties as emergency crews search through the rubble for survivors. The United States insists that traffic through the Strait of Hormuz is flowing normally for all vessels. The statement directly rejects recent claims from Tehran disrupting the recent Islamabad memorandum. Iran and Oman are holding emergency crisis talks to discuss alternate shipping routes. These talks will be held amid growing threats of a Hormuz closure. Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Bahrain unite in strongly condemning Tehran's escalating military maneuvers. Gulf defense officials accuse the Islamic Republic of sustaining systematic aggression across maritime routes. Iraqi Prime Minister Ali al-Zaidi will fly to Washington on Monday for urgent diplomatic talks. The high-level White House sessions will focus entirely on strategies to de-escalate the Middle East crisis. Military retaliation escalates as the United States and Iran resume direct exchange strikes. Shipping channels in the Strait of Hormuz brace for fresh conflict. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps warns of a crushing response if American airstrikes continue. Tehran releases aggressive propaganda footage of live missile launches to demonstrate its military readiness. Influential U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham has passed away. President Donald Trump led tributes while Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu plans a U.S. trip to attend the funeral. Israeli attacks have killed at least 5 people in Gaza, including a 9-year-old girl, according to Palestinian health officials. Medics said the child was killed after Israeli gunfire struck a tent encampment in Al-Bureij refugee camp in central Gaza. Israel has not commented on that specific incident. In a separate strike, 4 people were killed after missiles hit a metal foundry in Gaza City's Sabra neighborhood. The Israeli military said it targeted what it described as terrorist infrastructure. The latest violence comes despite the ceasefire agreed in October 2025, under which more than 1,000 Palestinians have reportedly been killed, while 4 Israeli soldiers have also died in Gaza. Meanwhile, Hamas leaders are in Cairo for fresh talks on the second phase of U.S. President Donald Trump's Gaza peace plan. Discussions are focused on Hamas disarmament and the withdrawal of Israeli forces, but no breakthrough has been reported so far. Gaza remains in a severe humanitarian crisis, with nearly 2 million people living in overcrowded coastal areas after repeated displacement since the war began. Now joining us live to shed more light on this is Medha Shiraran from NewsX World. Medha, what more can you tell us, please?
The war in Gaza doesn't seem to end despite a ceasefire that is going on in the enclave since the past 9 months. Now, from the latest that we're getting reportedly now, according to Palestinian health officials, at least 5 people have been killed in the Gaza Strip today. And Palestinian medics have said that Israeli gunfire was directed at a tent encampment on the eastern side of the Al-Bureij refugee camp in central Gaza, which killed a 9-year-old named Tala Abu Matar. Now, the Israeli military has not confirmed on the girl's death. A second strike took place at a metal foundry in Gaza City's Sabra neighborhood, which killed 4 people. Various witnesses are saying that the site was hit with 3 Israeli missiles. Israeli military has meanwhile said that it had struck terrorist infrastructure in this region and has refused to give any further details. Now remember, the ceasefire was agreed back in October 2025 between Israel and Hamas and had halted major fighting in the enclave, but It has failed to stop Israeli attacks that have killed over 1,000 Palestinians since it took effect. In the same duration, we're also learning that 4 Israeli soldiers were killed by terrorists in the same time duration. Now, the latest violence comes as Hamas leaders visited Cairo for further talks over implementing the second phase of US President Donald Trump's Gaza peace plan. The discussions included the disarmament of Hamas and the withdrawal of the Israeli army. However, as far as we know, there hasn't been any breakthrough. Nearly all of Gaza's 2 million people, most of whom have been displaced several times, now live on a tiny strip of land along the coast, mainly in makeshift tents or damaged buildings under Hamas's control. Now remember that this war started back in 2023 after Hamas-led fighters killed 1,200 people during their cross-border attack into Israel back in October 7, 2023. The Gaza Health Ministry has said that over 73,000 Palestinians have been killed in the territory since October 2023, and the fighting in the strip still continues. As far as the talks are concerned, we're just learning that an Israeli military delegation had held talks in Cairo with Egyptian military officials on advancing to the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire agreement. These meetings coincided with a visit by a Hamas delegation led by Khalil al-Hayya to the Egyptian capital for talks with mediators on consolidating the ceasefire and the future of the deal. Also, reportedly, the talks took place amid efforts to advance the next phase of Gaza agreement under US President Trump, while claiming that Hamas still refuses to disarm. Also, other key players like Qatar, Turkey and Egypt are mediating efforts to implement the ceasefire agreement and advance Donald Trump's Gaza plan. On September 29th last year, Trump had announced a plan to end Israel's war in Gaza. The first phase included a ceasefire, a partial Israeli military withdrawal, the release of Israeli captives, and the entry of 600 aid trucks per day into the enclave. Now, while Hamas completed the release of Israeli captives under the first plan, Israel has failed to meet its humanitarian commitments under the agreement and continues military attacks that have killed over 1,000 Palestinians and injured more than 3,500 others. The second phase of this peace plan envisions a broader Israeli military withdrawal from Gaza, where Israeli forces currently control more than 70% of the territory, as well as the start of reconstruction in exchange for the beginning of disarmament of Palestinian factions. Israel has not implemented the second phase and has instead insisted that the disarmament of Palestinian factions take priority. Israeli attacks, we're also learning, have destroyed about 91% of the infrastructure in the region, and various estimates says that billions of dollars will be required for reconstruction in the Gaza Strip that has been ravaged by almost 3 years of war. Now, just a couple of days ago, we also learned that Hamas had announced that it will dissolve its government and hand over power to a new Palestinian technocratic governing authority after nearly 2 decades of governing the Gaza Strip. And this move came as the United States-backed peace process, which resulted in a ceasefire last year, has largely stalled, and as Israel's bombardment of the Strip continues regardless. Back to you, Roshan.
Right, Medha, please stay with us. We'll be back with you shortly. Now, despite Iran's claim that it has closed the Strait of Hormuz, the United States insists that traffic is flowing and the vital waterway remains open to international shipping. The U.S. military says its forces are positioned and prepared to ensure freedom of navigation for all vessels lawfully transiting the strait, signaling that commercial traffic continues despite the escalating conflict. The statement follows Iran's announcement that it had shut the strategic maritime corridor after launching attacks on commercial vessels and U.S. military targets across the Gulf. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the world's most important energy choke points, carrying nearly 20% of global oil supplies. Any prolonged disruption could trigger major volatility in global energy markets and impact international trade. Washington's latest remarks underscore its determination to keep the sea lane operational, even as military tensions with Iran continue to escalate and fears grow over a wider regional conflict. Now joining us live once more to shed more light on this is Meda Shoran, joining us live from NewsX World. Meda, what more can you tell us, please?
Well, yes, Roshan, tensions are once again escalating between Iran as well as the United States. Now, the US had launched airstrikes on Iran and said that it had targeted 140 military sites in the country, and in retaliation, Iran had struck a military base in Jordan, as well as missiles and drones were launched at UAE, Qatar, Kuwait and Bahrain, among others. Now, the CENTCOM has come forward and said that the Strait of Hormuz is open to all vessels, and US military forces are positioned and prepared to ensure freedom of navigation. And this comes a day after US and Iranian forces exchanged fire, and Iran said that it had closed the vital waterway. Now let me walk you through the exact statement of the CENTCOM. The CENTCOM has said that pathways for free transit through the Strait of Hormuz remain open, and that Iran does not control the international waterway used by commercial vessels to globally transport goods and energy. The CENTCOM has also said that US forces have facilitated the transit of 800 plus ships and 400 plus million barrels of crude oil over the past 2 months, and that 140 plus ships have transited the strait in the last 7 days. The CENTCOM has also said that US forces are positioned and prepared to ensure that freedom of navigation remains available despite what it said, quote unquote, unwarranted Iranian aggression, harassment, threats and arbitrary declarations. Iran does not control the strait, the CENTCOM has said, and it has ended this by making a statement that the traffic in the strait is flowing. But we're also learning that Iran's Persian Gulf Strait Authority is also said that it is currently not possible to transit through the Strait of Hormuz because of the recent quote unquote illegal movements of the United States military forces in the region. Now, the PGSA has also put out a statement and said that as soon as stability and calm are restored, all requests will be reviewed based on the schedule and the necessary permits will be issued. Now remember, Iran began to block the strait after the US and Israel launched their war on February 28th with Iranian forces attacking ships, laying sea mines and charging fees for safe transit through the narrow channel. Iran's establishment of the Persian Gulf Strait Authority in May, which is a body to regulate and organize the passage of vessels, seeks to permanently alter the status of the strait. Now, just to give you a bit of a background, remember that the US launched a fresh wave of strikes in response to Iranian forces hitting a ship passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, in response to the American strikes, IRGC had said that the waterway was closed until further notice and has launched attacks on US bases and allies in the region. The IRGC said that it had hit a US base in Jordan, while the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait and Bahrain all responded to missiles and drones from Iran. Now, this comes after incidents earlier this week in which 3 commercial tankers were attacked, prompting an exchange of strikes between the US and Iran. Earlier on Sunday also, Iranian state media had said that Iran had closed the strait until further notice after firing a naval cruise missile at a vessel that was attempting to sail along an unapproved route. The guards said that the vessel was hit by warning shots and stopped after ignoring repeated instructions. It also warned that any US aggression as a result of the closure will be responded to with severity and new bases in the region would be targeted. Iran's parliamentary speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, who is also the country's chief negotiator with the US, wrote on X that the era of a one-sided deal is over, and he had struck a threatening tone when he said that we told you, keep your word or pay the price. Reality is knocking. Now remember, Iran has on multiple occasions said that it would respond to any US aggression in a proportionate manner. Launching a third round of strikes this week, the CENTCOM had said that the IRGC blatantly attacked a Cyprus-flagged vessel in the Strait of Hormuz, and the CENTCOM had also said that the MV GFS Galaxy was unable to continue its journey as a result of significant damage to the engine room. Back to you, Roshan.
Right. We'll be back with you shortly, Medha. Please stay with us. Now, the search continues for one missing crew member after an attack on the commercial cargo ship GFS Galaxy off the coast of Oman. The Maritime Security Center has confirmed that search and rescue operations are still underway to locate the missing person following the incident involving the vessel. India's foreign ministry had earlier said that one Indian national was unaccounted for after the attack, while 10 other Indian crew members were rescued. Oman's government later confirmed that 23 sailors from the stricken ship were brought to safety. The incident has raised fresh concerns over the safety of commercial shipping in the region, as tensions continue to escalate around the strategic waters of the Gulf. India has called for an end to attacks on commercial vessels and has urged immediate de-escalation to ensure safe and uninterrupted maritime traffic in international waters. Joining us live once more is Medha Shiran from NewsX World. Medha, with regards to Oman and these 23 seafarers, what more can you tell us about this ongoing search to essentially find that one missing crew member after the attack on the commercial cargo ship? Please.
Roshan, now the Maritime Security Center says that it is still searching for one missing member of the GFS Galaxy cargo ship. India's foreign ministry had earlier said that one Indian national is unaccounted for after the Iranian attack on the commercial vessel, adding that 10 nationals were rescued. Oman's government later said in a statement that 23 sailors were rescued from the stricken ship. Now India has condemned this attack on the merchant vessel that was hit by a so-called warning shot fired by Iranian forces near the coast of Oman, saying that there were 11 Indian seafarers on board. We're learning that 10 of them have been rescued while one reportedly remains missing. The MEA had put out a statement wherein it had said that it condemns the attack on the commercial vessel GFS Galaxy off the coast of Oman earlier today, and that of the 11 Indian nationals on board, 10 have been rescued while one is still missing. And the Indian embassy in Oman is also coordinating with Omani authorities in the search and rescue efforts. The Indian side has also said that the continued incidents of attacks on commercial shipping in the region were deeply worrisome, and that India is reiterating its call for immediate de-escalation of tensions and the conclusion of ongoing negotiations for a diplomatic solution so that peace and stability can return to the region. And that India also added that the targeting of commercial shipping and civilian infrastructure in the region must end, and free and unimpeded navigation and commerce through the international waterways in the region, in keeping with international law, must be restored at the earliest. Now, the Cyprus flagged GFS Galaxy, remember, was hit by what Iran described as a warning shot fired shortly before it declared the Strait of Hormuz closed once again. The incident came as tensions between Iran and the US witnessed a new high after days of fragile peace. Following the strike on GFS Galaxy, Tehran had claimed that it was transiting along an unapproved route on the conflict-hit waterway, warning that any retaliation over the incident would be met with a serious response. Back to you, Roshan.
Right. Thank you very much for your time, Medha, and for joining us here on NewsX World. Next up, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has announced plans to replace Prime Minister Yulia Svyrydenko as part of a major government reshuffle in Kyiv. Zelenskyy said he had proposed new government changes to implement an updated political strategy, but did not provide details about the timeline or name Svyrydenko's successor. Svyrydenko, who took office as Prime Minister in July 2025, has been thanked by Zelenskyy for her work and could reportedly move to a new role handling relations with a key international partner. Opposition lawmaker Yaroslav Zelenskyy said Svyrydenko could be appointed as Ukraine's ambassador to the United States. Under Ukrainian law, the Prime Minister's resignation requires parliamentary approval and would lead to the resignation of the entire government. Possible successors being discussed include former Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal, Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov, and Naftogaz Chief Serhiy Koretsky. The expected reshuffle comes as Ukraine continues to manage the war with Russia and strengthen its international partnerships. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.